Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, welcome to the show. This is the Millennial Millionaire podcast, and I am your host, Steven Cohen. This podcast is focused on bringing some of the wisest minds from across the globe to discuss concepts, strategies, and ideals that will lead them to be top performers in their respective industries and their lives. This show is for the millennials and millennials at heart to transcend their mindset, their health, and their income to the next level. We are so excited to have you on this journey with us. Welcome to the show. Welcome back to the show. It is your guest, Steven Cohen. Today, we have an amazing guest, Ginger King. Ginger is the founder of Grace Kingdom Beauty. She's an award-winning cosmetic chemist. She's a 10X business coach, and super excited to have you on the show. Ginger, thank you so much.
My honor to be here.
Of course. So you're here for 10X?
Yes, of course.
Tell me about that. So you're a 10X trainer. Like we were mentioning, I've been to a handful of 10X events. I think they're always great. You know, Donald Trump, Dana White, like a bunch of big speakers. But what got you invested in that space?
Originally, I didn't know I would be so in love with 10X.
Yeah.
This is going to be my 8th year in 10X. My very first time I went to 10X was because my mentor, Daymond John, that was his 49th birthday.
Okay.
And he was a speaker there. So I was like, I'm going there for Daymond John. I had no idea who the heck is Grant Cardone. But then ever since then, I was like, oh, wow, this guy is the real deal. So I've been following Grant ever since.
Yeah. No, Grant Cardone is, as controversial as he has great content, and he's doing something right.
Yes.
When it comes to entrepreneurship, so obviously you've been in business for a while now. You're widely successful, featured in a ton of different magazines about your business. What originally got you invested and attracted to entrepreneurship?
Shark Tank.
Shark Tank.
Yes, that was a TV show that's like, wow, it ignited my entrepreneurial spirit. I have so much more I can do rather than doing a 9-to-5 job.
Was it like watching Shark Tank, like when you were younger, or?
It was watching Shark Tank, and then I actually become friends with all of them. So it's very inspiring, and I love all the entrepreneurs come onto the show to hear the stories and see their success afterwards.
So walk me through that, because I'm a big fan of Shark Tank as well. I used to watch it with my parents. It's been on forever, and seeing people go on there and give them pitch and all their things. Were you a contestant on the show?
I actually auditioned twice.
Okay.
But I didn't make it to the final round. They say it's harder than going to Harvard.
Oh, wow. That is difficult.
Uh-huh.
So you said that you're friends with some of the sharks. How did that process? Because I think a lot of people listening, most of the audience are entrepreneurs or striving entrepreneurs, people in business, sales, and they want to find a mentor. They want to get connected and in proximity with people like some of the sharks, like Daymond John, like you mentioned. How does someone go from being a fan of a show like that or a fan of the study of success to actually having that network and being connected with those type of people?
Well, most successful people, they should already have some sort of books or audios or podcasts that they can follow already. So you need to know them. And when you want somebody to be your mentor, it's not only what they can do for you, it's also what you can do for them. And how I got Daymond John's attention was through professional stalking. So before, when Shark Tank was like airing, they do like live tweeting. And I would tweet like thoughtful thoughts, and I got his attention. And because he was living in New York, I was in New Jersey, it's very easy for me to attend every of his events. So we become friends.
Wow. So what advice would you give to people that maybe are looking for that type of mentorship, but maybe they're not making the effort? Because I think in today's world, it's a little bit different than maybe 20 or 30 years ago, where you can stalk someone outside their office, or you can wait outside someone's building and wait for them to come out and then bump into them and introduce yourself. And today with social media, people are getting bombarded 10,000 times that some people can probably become desensitive to people reaching out, asking for help. How do you feel like people can separate themselves?
Well, when I say stalking, it doesn't have to be physical, because everybody is on social media. So you can give feedback, comments on their feed. So, make sure you show up. And that's one thing Daymond likes about me being an entrepreneur. And also what Grant Cardone says is show up. The rule of success, number one rule is show up.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think most people are expecting things to happen without doing the work on their end.
Mm-hmm.
I think, back when I went to go to school, I felt like showing up was half the battle, right?
Yes.
Once you show up, you'll figure out what you need to, you'll go there. Why do you think most people don't show up? Why do you think most people, they're waiting for something to happen to them, or waiting for that big break, or waiting to run into someone worth $100 million versus actually making the effort to go out there and create that for themselves?
I think most of us, we don't have the proper guidance because school doesn't teach you how to network like a pro. And, and people kind of expect something to hand it to them instead of working for it. And I think that's the key issue. You need proper guidance. And yes, looking for a mentor is extremely important, but you cannot just ask anyone to be a mentor because people have limited time. If you want help, you need to offer your value to them as well.
I agree. You mentioned don't just see what someone can do for you, see what you can do for that individual. Do you have any examples for the audience where you feel like people can add value to someone that maybe has something that they want versus waiting for that individual to add value to them?
Yes, this actually happened 2 days ago. Daymond John went to the beach and he went to pick up all the garbages, and he posts on Instagram and all the socials saying he wants to find a solution for biodegradable caps. And I actually gave him the solution. I said, there's this company, they are doing the PLA as biodegradable, and it can take carbonated ingredients as well. And he actually DM'd me, and of course, we know each other already, but he's like, I need you to do something else too.
I love that. Yeah, I think taking initiative is something that people just forget to do, or they just don't do for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
I think because we're maybe trained, you mentioned kind of the school system doesn't prepare people when it comes to networking. I would double down on that. I don't think the school system prepares you for much in the real world. It doesn't teach you how to take initiative. You're conditioned to go to school, go to lunch, by a bell, by other people telling you when you can or can't do something. That when people get vaulted into the real world, at least I know my generation, they're kind of helpless because they haven't been equipped with the right tools. What do you think the younger generation, or maybe the millennial generation, because that's mainly the viewers, needs to do in order to prepare themselves in the real world when it comes to being successful at business?
Well, seeking the right mentor. There are so many different mentors out there, but you need to find those who have already done it. Grant likes to say, for those who cannot do, teach. And that's your professors in school.
Yeah. No, it's so true. I run a direct sales company, and the thing I love about sales is it's very black and white. Either you're making the money you want or you're not. Either you have the recognition or you don't. And the beautiful thing is there's no hiding. The numbers are the numbers. Same thing in business, right? The numbers are the numbers. Your bank account is a reflection of the value that you're adding into the marketplace. So when it comes to taking advice from people, make sure that you're only taking advice from people that have walked the path that you want to walk. Just because someone has the best interest in mind for you doesn't necessarily mean they're qualified to give you the best advice.
Correct. And people are bombarded with friends and family who most likely they haven't done it themselves yet.
100%. Ginger, for your journey, what did you have to do? Because I imagine, I don't know your background too much, but did you have that mentorship growing up, or did you have to seek it? Where did you find that entrepreneurial spirit and know the blueprint that you needed to follow to obviously create the success you have today?
Well, I am a very persistent and very determined individual. When I was very young, I already know I want to be in beauty. And that was partly because an experience I had. That was back in 1983. I'm dating myself. And I went to a restaurant, and there was nobody recognized. Would say hi to me. Even though I said hi, nobody would see me. And then the next day I went to the same restaurant. However, this time I was treated like a VIP. I was like, what's the difference? And then I realized the difference was I had makeup on. And at the time, I was like, wow, makeup can really transform people. So how it can turn an ugly duckling into a swan. And I wanted to become a makeup artist, but because I'm Asian, and my family's like, if you don't get a PhD, you better get a master's degree, no makeup artistry. And when cosmetology school called me, they actually said, Ginger King, cosmetology? No, you got the wrong number. But then I still be very, very persistent. And I think part of the reason why is also because I grew up in beauty. My mom was the first female entrepreneur in the family. She started, she said, the franchise. She said the boutiques to Taiwan back in the 60s. So I grew up under the influence without knowing it. So who you hang around with matters. So I would say my mom is the first entrepreneur that I know. And then later on, it's Shark Tank. It's like spark, like the fire. And then because I got this connection with Daymond, I see what they are doing. I was like, wow, this is truly amazing. And then Grant Cardone put it into even higher 10x mindset.
Love it.
So this is just like the most beautiful thing ever is being an entrepreneur because you control your own destiny.
No, I love that, and I agree 100%. So I want to pick that apart a little bit. So you found your passion with beauty because you had a personal experience that you're like, okay, this makes sense to me. And typically when things make sense, sometimes they make dollars. So you saw the vision of what you wanted to accomplish. Your persistence and determination, where do you think that came from? Do you think that came from your mom, seeing her, modeling her? Do you think that is skills that are inherent and that are intrinsic? Or do you think that is something that is learned?
That is learned. Well, first of all, because we are immigrant, so I see how hard my mom works. So I know you need to be persistent and consistent and have the ambition to get whatever you want. And then with all this entrepreneurial training, they always say if you never quit, you never fail. So you just cannot quit. It's like I didn't come this far to get this far. So I have to keep going.
Yeah. During your business incline, as you started to build your beauty brand and your company, and now you're a consultant, which we'll get into, were you always doing this type of like personal development and feeding your mind with the right information? Or did that come after you started to create some success in your business?
Oh, I think I started in high school. Because I do have friends who introduced me to Brian Tracy, Tom Hopkins. So I've been reading their books. And I was doing beauty retail sales. I was at the counter. Because remember, I cannot become a makeup artist. I went to study chemistry to learn how to make cosmetics. But at part-time at Macy's, at department store, doing makeup for other people.
It's a good way to tailor your sales skills.
Yes. Yeah.
I think it's interesting that you say that because I think a lot of people, when they look back at their past or they look back at challenges, you really wanted to go after your goals and your dreams, but because of your parents and your upraising, they kind of forced you to go a certain direction. But you fast forward 10, 20 years, that direction that you didn't want to do actually turned into your greatest strength.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that, because I think people in the moment, sometimes they look at something that's negative or something that isn't aligned with where they're wanting to go, and they get frustrated because they can't see forward on how those things will actually connect the dots. Do you think that is something that most people experience? And what advice would you give to people that maybe are in the moment that don't feel like they're pursuing their dream because of external circumstances, but maybe they just have the wrong attitude about it?
I think attitude matters because I could easily just like become a doctor or become a lawyer, like how all the Asian parents expect me to do. But because of my passion, by looking back, I'm actually happy I become a cosmetic chemist rather than a makeup artist, because cosmetic chemist, I create products. Makeup artists apply products. So I'm like, I have even more sense of accomplishment. I have more contribution to the society. So that's, sometimes, at the moment, it may sound like, oh, I cannot do what I want to do. But you kind of need to circle around. What else can you do? Still achieve your dream and still getting a nice degree like your parents want you to.
Yes. I think that's the and versus the or mentality, right? Some people have a limited mentality and they say, oh, I have to go get a degree, or I can go start a business, or, oh, I need to go follow what my parents said, or I can go chase my dream. but that's a very limited perspective. If you can exchange the or for an and come from a place of abundance, not from a place of binary, but a place of infinite, then you can create both.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Let's talk about brand a little bit, because I think you've done a really good job building your brand. Obviously, you've done great things in your space. You've done a great job on social media branding yourself. How did you learn about brand, and what do people need to know about it?
How do I learn about brand is I consistently watching what other people are doing. Not necessary to compete, because we learn we dominate, don't compete. But you also need to understand where are the white spaces where you can dominate. And that's how I usually learn things. So just like, don't compete, dominate.
Love that. That's the Grant Cardone, right?
Yes, that's Grant Cardone.
Yes. It's an interesting philosophy. I know it sounds a little kind of one-liner, but it's such a powerful concept, because it takes your intensity and your commitment to another level. You know, when you're casually out there trying to compete with other people, you're playing from a very limited space, where if you can really focus on the domination standpoint, you can almost start to 10x, 100x your thinking, which is obviously going to create the result. When it comes to you standing out in your space, I'm sure when you started Ginger, there were a lot of people in the same business that you were in, the beauty brand. It's not like it's a new space by any means. I don't know the statistics behind it, but I know it's probably, you know, a big industry. What do you think was the great separator that separated you from achieving what you did versus all the other people that had a similar dream, but maybe didn't execute the way that you did?
My biggest separator is I am the only certified 10X business coach who is also a cosmetic chemist. And this speaks volumes is because a lot of people, like, you want to create your own beauty brand. The first thing people's like, okay, I need a cosmetic chemist. But most of the cosmetic chemists, they're not business people. They can give you a product, but then unless you're a great marketer yourself, do you know what to do with your product? Most likely not. And the reason why I added 10X Business Coach is because it fits my ecosystem. For example, most of people do not understand how much it would take to create a beauty brand. So I do 10X Business Coaching to help them to boost their current revenue, whatever they are doing, so they will have enough funds to have their own business. And also, after I create the beauty products for them, I teach them how to do sales and marketing, so they can push their products out. I can also teach them how to do pitches to investors, so they can find sugar daddies for the products.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting point that you bring up. You were all encompassing. You were vertically integrated, right? There's a lot of people that are just the creator, or they just can develop the product, but they can't market it, they can't scale it, they can't source it, where you took it upon yourself to learn those skills. So my question for you, Ginger, when it comes to people in the entrepreneur space, in your perspective, should people, and it may be case by case, but should people try to go that route and try and do everything, learn everything, be at least coherent in everything, proficient in everything, from the marketing to the creating to the CEO to the visionary? Or should they focus more on focusing on what they're really good at and outsourcing and delegating the rest?
I would say probably 3 years ago, I would say specialize and outsourcing. Now I'll tell you, you need to know everything, because whoever hired, it's like the John Maxwell's The Rule of the List. Whoever you hire will not be as good as you. Yes. Otherwise, they will not be working for you. And you seriously need to know every single thing in your business. It's your business. And after I learned that, I went back to check all the people who I hired before. It's like, wow, I should have cut this long time ago. You need to know what you are doing before you delegate and scale your team. Unless it's like super, super technical, like coding stuff that you don't know how to do. But sales marketing, you have to know.
Yeah. Where do you think that transition was for you from business operator to business owner? Because I think a lot of people think it's the same thing. I know in my career that sometimes, especially when you create something, you're the founder, you're the one that builds it from the ground up, you want to do everything. And I think I agree with you to some point. You do need to know how to do everything. So like you said, you can attract talent and leadership because you can teach them something that they don't have. But then I think there comes a point where you're almost limited by your ability to scale, because if you're the guy doing everything, making the pizza, opening the door, greeting the guest, you're limited by your time and energy versus being the business owner that has 4 or 5 pizza shops that are being able to scale. What was that transition for you?
So it comes down to the process. So you need to be able to document everything that you do so you can be duplicated. And you're never going to find another person that's 100% as good as you are.
Sure.
And most likely you will need to hire 3 people to replace what you do. So it's the rule of 3.
Okay. When it comes to sales and marketing, because you bring that up, obviously you're a 10X certified trainer. Have you always been a really good communicator, or is that something that was learned?
That's absolutely learned, especially English.
Which is not your first language.
It's not my first language.
Yeah. No, I think it's so interesting because I have a lot of business owners that come on, salespeople, entrepreneurs, and the common thread that most people always kind of go back to is your ability to communicate, your ability to negotiate, persuade, transfer energy and conviction, because it doesn't matter if you're transferring the energy through a social media post promoting your brand or you're transferring the energy to a employee that may be underperforming and you're trying to get more. The skill of communicating so important. What are some things that you did that you felt like you've been able to enhance that ability?
I would say think about understanding what people want is very important, because a lot of times when people communicate, it's like you be talking about A and then you're talking about B. So lack of clarity is often an issue. And also, before I care about my accent, okay, because people was like, I don't understand you. Now I don't really care, because if you really pay attention, people have verbal language, also have body language. You know, a lot of successful people, like Arnold, he has accent, but accent is not in the way. Accent actually make you more unique.
Yes. Yeah, I was going to say I would argue that having some separator, whether it's a verbal or physical, can actually make you more unique. You can actually turn your insecurity to some people into your own superpower. And I think Tony Robbins talks about this, like the second you're able to take negative things in your life and turn it into positive, that's when you create freedom. Kind of like 8 Mile. I don't know if you've ever seen 8 Mile, but in the last episode with Eminem, you know, the rap was he's just bagging on himself about all his insecurities and negative. So by the time the person that he's going against, he didn't have anything to say and he lost the battle. I think being able to confront your insecurities or anything that makes you not confident, I guess is the word, allows you to then create that level of invincibility for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to scaling, you've done a good job from going from a starter to now actually running a business, and now you're on the consulting side helping other entrepreneurs in the beauty space scale. What tips would you give people when it comes to scaling? Maybe it's their sales business, maybe it's their physical business, maybe they're scaling a drop shipping company, right? All the things that entrepreneurs are doing, scaling something that's important. What advice would you have for people?
When people want to scale, the first thing people always have challenge is time management. So how do you create time? It's really to look at your calendar to see what are the things that you are doing and kind of categorize them. And you should pay 80% of attention on the money-making activities.
MMA.
And, yes. And the others, you can delegate, hire people to do it for you.
So understand where, you know, the 80-20 rule, I like, you know, 80% of the things you're doing is only creating 20% of the result. You need to get clear. You talked about clarity on the 20% that's actually going to move the needle forward. Does that 20% change in people's careers, would you say, based on their role or how long? Or do you think the thing that got them there is sometimes the thing that they just need to double down on?
I think it will change based on the business needs. And, you know, there's also a book like if you got this far, you can go to the next level, but because you need to change something.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I would agree. When it comes to, obviously you had a passion for beauty from, you know, a young lady, right? You kind of knew that this was something that I hear a lot, especially I would say now, is I don't love what I do, therefore I shouldn't do it. Do you think you need to love what you do when it comes to building something in order to be successful at it? Or do you think you don't necessarily need to love what you do, but you need to fall in love with the process because that will eventually be able to give you the freedom to do what you love to do?
You need to fall in love with the process because everything is about the process, and it's a journey. Yeah.
What advice would you give to people? Because there's a lot of people listening that maybe are stuck in a 9-to-5 job that they don't love, or maybe they are in a place in their sales business where they're feeling burnt out. And the thing that they once loved to do, they no longer love to do because now it's mundane. Now it maybe isn't as sexy as it was the first year, right? As when you launch a business, things are exciting, it's fun. But then 5 years in, 6 years in, 7 years in, right, you start to kind of feel the weight of the mundaneness of it. What would you tell those people that are maybe at that point where they fell out of love with the process?
You need to revisit your why because your why is your motivator. And this is the reason why Grant Cardone always says that the reason why people don't achieve their goal is because they don't set their goal big enough. It has to be so big and juicy goal that you'll be willing to walk over on broken glasses. And that's a 10x goal. And when people give up, it's because the picture is not big enough. The vision is not big enough. You need to know why you are doing that.
Yeah, I had a mantra early in my entrepreneur career too, when things weren't going well, was, Steven, the only way that you fail is if you quit or if you don't do anything. But as long as you wake up every single day and you make that micro progress, that 1% of just moving the needle forward, you are technically success because you're moving forward in something that you're passionate about. Therefore, you're doing the thing that you know that you should be doing consistently. When it comes to finding the right people, because it doesn't matter what you do in life, whether you're a beauty business owner, whether you're trying to start a nonprofit, whether you just want to create a sales team or a region, you're going to need other people. You know, this life you cannot do alone. You need other people in order to support your goal. The ancient proverb says that if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. What would you say to people out there that are struggling finding quality people to help them build their goal and their dream?
They need to look at themselves first because people don't work for lousy bosses. So you need to build up first. You know, it's the me leadership and then we leadership. So build up yourself first, and then you can hire good people. And also everything is a process. There's a hiring process. There's an interviewing process. So everything is a process.
Yeah, life's an inner game. It's something I always come back to. Whenever have low vibration or my energy's low or I'm doubting myself, because typically when you're doubting yourself, you're probably focused on the future. You're probably focused on something that hasn't happened yet or something that hasn't happened the way that you thought it should. And you're so future focused, when in reality, if you can just focus on the internal game, the day to day, what can I do about it? What can I do today to feel a little bit better, to make an inch of improvement? Then it's able to shift your state so you can propel whatever the challenges that you're trying to overcome and move forward. In your business, Ginger, you've obviously been in business for a while. Any type of successful entrepreneur has gone through ups and downs. You know, they say that most entrepreneurs that haven't gone bankrupt just haven't been an entrepreneur long enough, which I haven't been, thankfully, but hopefully, still newer to the game. Can you talk a little bit about your losses, your challenges? Because I think in social media and on podcasts, most people focus so much on how great they're doing or the success tips, which is fine, but anyone could be positive and feel good when they're winning. But when they're losing, when they're late on their bills, when their office rent is months behind, when their credit card debt is, blowing them away, that's when people can't find that level of optimism. What would you tell people that are maybe in a valley right now and maybe not at a peak?
Entrepreneur is not for everyone. And it's like a roller coaster. Yes, the upside is you can control your own destiny, but you also have more bosses to please. A lot of people want to be an entrepreneur because they want to be their own boss. They don't want to listen to other people. They don't want to have, be micromanaged by other bosses. But once you are being an entrepreneur, you have even more bosses. I think that's something that people don't really realize. It may sound very fun, I'm my own boss, but you also have a lot more responsibility.
Yeah, and for bosses, you would say your clients are your boss, your shareholders are your boss, your calendar's your boss, stuff like that?
Yes.
Yeah, I really adopted the concept of my calendar being my boss.
Uh-huh.
What goes in the calendar gets done. What doesn't go in the calendar typically doesn't get done. So being able to be self-accountable, I think that's the biggest challenge that most young entrepreneurs or most people that are self-employed face. I've trained thousands of salespeople over my career, 100% commission. You either kill and you eat, or you don't and you don't eat. No base salary or anything like that. And the biggest trend that I see from people that create success and don't, it's their ability to hold themselves self-accountable to what they say they're going to do, to the schedule. When someone's not breathing down your neck, telling you, hey, you have to clock in here, clock out here, raise your hand to go to the restroom, that's when you see people's true character, their true commitment level, and their true intent. And most people, when they're not being told what to do, because we've been conditioned, I believe, our whole life to be a slave to someone else, they don't have enough self-discipline. For you, how do you stay I don't like using the word motivated, but self-accountable? How do you make sure you're not falling into the distractions of the world and the news and social media? How do you stay tunnel vision?
If you are in the 10X system, you are held accountable every single day.
There's the plug right there.
Yes, seriously. It's like we have like coaches that we are coaches, but we also have coaches coach. So we are held accountable every single day. We have Zoom meetings every single day. And the first thing they will ask you is, tell me your wins. And then you need to repeat successful actions. And then what are the challenges that you have? And what kind of takeaways from these sessions. So it's everything about accountability. You just like you cannot have one person. It's very hard to have self-accountable. You need to have a partner.
I agree. Yeah, I think for anyone out there that's trying to be a solopreneur, it's almost impossible, because the days where the weeks feel too heavy, the challenges are crushing you, you need that support system. You need that vessel of accountability and love and energy in order to push you through so you don't make those decisions that are detrimental to your long-term business. Ginger, for you, so you went from creating an actual business to now the consulting side in the same industry. Tell me about that transition from you growing Grace Kingdom Beauty, or I believe that was the name of the company, to now being on the consulting side, helping other people in the space grow their own businesses and brands.
Grace Kingdom Beauty is a consulting company, and I do have a brand, Fan Love Beauty. And I actually leaning toward more helping other people because I see more. It's like I feel like I have more impact in every people's story. It's just like when I do coaching, I really enjoyed it because people share with me their problems. And then I just like can peek into other people's world. It's much more fulfilling than push products out there.
Yeah. It's funny because I've been in that space for a really long time. I went from selling solar panels to then training people on how to sell solar panels to now running organizations on supporting people to sell solar panels. But it doesn't matter what the product is. It doesn't matter if it's solar panels, beauty products, alkaline water, like whatever the industry, the common denominator is people. And it's not even about moving products. It's about moving people that then will move products. So for you, how was that transition from being focused on products and profits and revenue and distributors and manufacturers to now empowering other people? Was that a hard process or was it pretty natural?
It was pretty natural, and because it's more fulfilling, well, I should say because if it's their problem, I don't really live in it every single day. They bring the challenges to me and I help them to solve problems. And when you solve a problem, you feel good immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you solve a problem, you feel good. I agree. I think people run away from problems too much. I'm guilty of it as well. Maybe there's that phone call that you need to make that's uncomfortable, or maybe there's that hard conversation you need to hit someone up about because you messed up on an order or whatever. When you can face the problem and you solve it, rather than run away from it and create that anxiety, you actually feel better because you cross that big scary monster off the list. So I think people need to go run into their problems more. Now that you're on the consulting side, what do you see in those students that you coach that end up taking your advice and actually creating success versus the ones that come on the calls, they pay you the services, but they don't actually make change in their life or their business? Where do you think the differentiator is?
The differentiator is the ones who really does the work. They will send me love letters, testimonials, because I truly impacted their life, personally, professionally, and financially. And the ones who didn't do anything were the ones like they sign up. Probably I didn't charge enough because you know how it is. Like, you have to pay enough to pay attention. Yeah. So they didn't show up.
I think that's a really good point. I used to give my guys books. I used to buy them books and give it to them. And I stopped doing that because they would never read the books. Now I make them buy the book. And usually it's a little bit better that they'll read the book. People don't value things that they don't pay for, whether that's with fiscal, monetary money, with energy, with time. And I think that's why most people don't value the power of their mind or value the air, or why we have such a hard time in the Western world being grateful for the small things, because we get them effortlessly. They're just there. I was just in Costa Rica for a couple weeks on a retreat, and part of it was a charity event, and we were playing with kids from a school that barely had toys or anything to play with, so we brought them toys. We were picking up trash and recycling and planting trees, like doing all this humanitarian work. And it made me so grateful for when I got back to Vegas, because we don't have to chop water and carry wood in the Western world for the most part, where there's still billions of people out there that have to do those things. So I think the concept of not valuing things that we're not having to work for or invest into is important, not just when it comes to investing in yourself, but I think the day-to-day, so we don't take the things that we have so effortlessly for granted.
And also because the audience is more millennial, they are younger, I would say if you want to ask for somebody's advice, it's better to pay them. I get like emails, DMs all the time, and when I say I do charge for a consulting call, and they was like, I would never pay anyone anything. And then what kind of advice do you really want? There's a difference of give, and there is a, just like I just want to know what is in it for me. So it comes down to the mentality, the attitude again.
Yes. And I'm curious your answer on this, because it's something that I struggle with. Back to my industry, there are people that come in and we give them the same training, resources, support, mentorship, platform, everything. And there's some people that come in and absolutely crush it. And there's other people that obviously don't do anything. Same circumstances, same support, same everything. So for you, do you feel like it's more on the actual trainer or more on the individual that makes the life-changing decision? For example, for me, I don't know if I could give someone the best training, the best support, the best platform, but if they're the wrong person, not make it happen. Or you could give someone the worst training, the worst support, the worst mentorship, the worst compensation plan, and that individual still finds a way to make it happen. What's your thoughts on those two?
It's like you can bring the horse to the river, you cannot make the horse drink the water. It's all depend on the person, and that person has to start with their mindset, because there were so many things we were taught wrong when we were a kid. It's like how Graham would say, a penny saved is still a penny.
Yes. What do people need to do to start reconditioning their mind? Because I agree. Chances are, if you're not from an affluent family or if you're not from wealth, you have these programs, you have these beliefs, you have these paradigms that were implanted in you from your friends, from your parents, from your peers, from your teachers, from an early age, where if you don't address them as you get older and you start going into the real world, they start to unconsciously run ransom in your mind and you continue to attract the same results. What do people need to know about their mindset and being able to shift that?
I think having role model in life is very important. I mean, I think everyone has some sort of celebrity crush in a way. It's like in our natural. And who is the celebrity that you have crush on and why? And don't limit the celebrity as the entertainer celebrity. Look at the business celebrities, the business moguls. Who do you want to emulate? The reason why Grant Cardone is successful because he studied successful people. He also studied successful business. And that's how he became where he is today. You need to study how other people did it.
I agree. If you want what people have, you got to do what they do.
Yeah.
And you'll get what they get. Ginger, do you believe in balance?
No.
Talk to me about that.
Well, I was conditioned to not to have balance by all the mentors that I have. There's no such thing as family and business balance. You get it once you become known, once you become successful, then you think about balance. But until you get it, don't think about the word balance.
So become obsessed with your goals and your dreams.
Yes.
And then once you accomplish a little bit of that goal and dream, then you can have a little bit more life balance, would you say?
Yes.
Do you ever find yourself, obviously you've had a lot of success in business. I imagine a lot of your goals from 10 years ago, you probably accomplished. But then once you accomplish, I don't know if you can relate, I definitely do. I want this thing, I work really hard for it, I accomplish it, and then I kick the goalpost forward where there's this next thing. So you're almost in this constant chase of accomplishment and fulfillment and achievement, which can be good if it's helping you become the person you need to in order to attract and sustain that level. But it could also create a bit of fleetingness when it comes to your joy and fulfillment because you're always focused on that next thing. Have you ever noticed that in your career or the people that you coach, or what is your perspective on that?
You have to keep going for the next big thing. Otherwise, you're being selfish. Because if you think you're very content of where you are right now, you already stop your own potential. Your potential is unlimited. So you need to keep going. And what amazes me the most is the most successful people are also the busiest people. On weekends, they have webinars, they have workshops. They don't have to do this, but they're doing it for the people.
Yeah, I find it always interesting when people like a Grant Cardone, who you mentioned, or Donald Trump, right? Some of the most elite, most wealthy, successful people on the planet, Elon Musk, they're working.
Yeah.
24/7. They're not on boats in Monaco. They're not on the south of France on a beach. They're out there grinding, dealing with adversity, dealing with hate from the public. Elon Musk as of recently. For what? It's not like money is motivating them anymore. What do you think that is? Do you think that's just impact and desire for legacy?
Yes, impact and legacy. I mean, everybody come to this world have a purpose. And finding your purpose and also really reach out to more people to have the impact. And this comes back down to you need to set your goal. What is your goal, your vision?
What would you tell people that don't know what their goal or vision is? Maybe they hear this and it sounds great, but they haven't put enough thought into it. Do you think everyone naturally has these visions and goals, or you think it's something that needs to be cultivated?
It needs to be cultivated, but then they also need to have the wildest imagination. If today you can have everything in the world, what would you do, and how would you do it differently?
I like that. Ginger, what do you feel like your superpower is, if you had one?
My superpower is I'm very adaptable. And that's very important because you need to remain flexible. Can you imagine if when my family say you cannot become a makeup artist, and if I just fight, right? It's like, I still get my way today, but in a different way.
Adaptability is huge, especially in today's world where something from your business, something from the marketplace, something on social media, an algorithm could be completely different tomorrow, next week, next month, next quarter. I mean, there's so many people that made their livelihood on TikTok for a second. That was about to be taken away just like that. So you have to be able to adapt and be flexible. When it comes to females in the marketplace, I haven't had many females on the show, not because I don't want to, just because for whatever reason, most of my client and people that are attracted are male in my sphere of influence. What would you tell women out there that have the desire to be a mogul in business, that have that entrepreneur spirit, but maybe aren't following it because of maybe societal pressures, maybe lack of support? What would you say to them?
Just do it. I mean, I don't think we have any weakness compared to men. Maybe men pretend to be more outspoken, but it's just like the accent thing. It's like, yeah, we know we can be softer spoken, but it doesn't mean we don't have the ideas. It doesn't mean we don't know how to execute. After all, we are the ones giving babies.
I'd argue that females are probably more creative than males in most cases. Yeah, it's interesting. It's been cool to see, over the last decade, I feel like there's been a big shift in gender roles. I don't know the exact stat, but I think over the last couple of years, there's more female CEOs than ever in history. What do you accredit that to? What do you accredit the birth of entrepreneurship in women as of recently?
Well, everything kind of if you look at in the past, there are all men on the board. And of course, you will have some sort of pressure from the society as well. And then you will have people like Elena Cardone, who's more outspoken, and people will treat her like a role model to want to follow her footsteps. So I think things are getting better. I mean, people do accept female. Sometimes people don't want to take female as more seriously, but I think we can change that narrative.
I agree. I always tell our lady salespeople that they're the best when they can focus. They're a lot more approachable. They're a lot more desirable for the average person to want to have a conversation with. A lot less threatening, at least in my space. What I find though is, and I'm sure this is not for everyone, sometimes they're not the emotions. They're not in as control of the emotions as much as some of our other people.
Yes, but I also have learned that in business, the only emotion you can have is celebration. So a lot of things that we talk about today, I think it's really learned. It's not something that you were born with it. And where you learn it, it's really learning people who are already entrepreneurs rather than from school.
Seems like the common theme is find someone that has the results you want and study them and follow them. We're in the 21st century. We all have access to information at the tip of our thumb. Within 30 seconds, I can go study someone who's created a $100 billion business for free. Yet most people seem like they use social media and technology as more of a crutch or a distraction versus a tool to grow themselves.
Yeah, in the Cardone culture, we say it's model, mimic, master. And then you multiply. When you multiply, it's how you scale.
MMM. Love it. I love it. Awesome, Ginger. Well, I have a few more questions for you. This one may make you think a little bit, but what is something earlier in your career that you believed was true that now further in your career you feel like isn't?
You have to be the expert in your field. It's not necessarily true. I mean, you need to be a generalist, but you don't have to be a specialist in everything.
Mastery in some, but also know enough about everything else that you can navigate through it.
Yes. And also don't just like I have some people, when I teach them about sales, and they will be like a very, very like shy away from it. So no, I'm not in sales. I don't want to learn sales. But people don't understand, regardless if you have the title of a sales or not, life is a sale. So that's also a concept that people need to remember. Or sometimes when I ask if I want to do coaching, and I say, I don't have a business, but you are a business yourself.
Yeah. What's the Jay-Z quote? I'm not a businessman. I'm a businessman. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true,
Yeah.
especially in today's age. You
Yeah.
know, there's so many self-employed, solo entrepreneur things that, like, at the end of the day, like, you are a business. When you think of the most successful people, I don't think of the companies. I don't think of Tesla when I think of Elon Musk, maybe. I don't think of Jake Paul or Logan Paul's company. I think of them because they are a business. They are the marketing. I don't think of 10X when I think of Grant Cardone. I just think of Grant Cardone, who owns venture capital, 10X, all the things. So I agree with you. Awesome, Ginger. My last question for you before you close out is, if you can go back in time to when you were a little bit younger, when you had the aspiration of being a makeup artist and the desire to go out there and create something, if the Ginger today could give that younger Ginger advice, what would that advice be?
Keep your passion alive. Don't ever let anybody kill your passion.
Passion's important. Passion's important. And I think too many people, they allow people close to them that have their best intention, but necessarily don't have the competence to give them the best advice, allow, I think, their goals and their dreams and their passion to diminish a little bit. So that's some sound advice. Where can people find you, Ginger, if they want to get connected with your company, your coaching?
Instagram is probably the easiest. The Beauty Shark Ginger.
Beauty Shark Ginger. We'll definitely throw that below. Awesome. Ginger, thank you so much for being on. Have fun at 10X. I may see you there, and appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
Guys, we'll see you on next week's episode. Thanks for tuning in. Like, comment, and subscribe. See you soon.